this week's Talking Codswallop. I'm Gemma.
I'm James.
We are talking about a subject which is not all about the jokes, but I'm sure we're still going to have a couple of giggles. We're talking about mental health, because mental health matters. And I think on this podcast, we've all suffered in some way, shape or form. We also have a special guest with us who is one of the most educated men that I personally know about this subject, because I personally know you. So please welcome to the show my big brother, Lee.
Hello, everyone.
Yay!
Oh, thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for having me here today.
Oh,
Looking
you're
forward
welcome,
to
I
it.
guess.
Yeah.
It's just showing again that how the young sibling is always the better one, you know.
Yeah.
For those of you who obviously can't see, because this isn't going to be a YouTube episode, Gemma's sat slightly higher as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have to know my place now.
Yes, someone got the short stool.
No, he wanted the comfy chair. I got the awkward chair. So, you know.
Yeah, any excuse.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like how you sort of did in the introduction, mental health is always something that is a tricky subject to discuss. But equally, I think it is one of the most important discussions that you should have as well. So that's why we've got Lee on today, because he is a trained counsellor and wanted to sort of get into the nitty gritty of things. So, James, have you got any questions that you wanted to ask?
I think I would probably say, as I mentioned before we started recording, obviously, yes, mental health is a very important subject, but a very difficult one to broach. Obviously, who starts a conversation? I just sat down. Oh, it's one of those things of a lot of people try and talk about it like they talk about the weather.
Yes.
But it's much more important than that. But it's a very difficult topic to broach. So my biggest question would first be, is what do you find is the best way to get people to open up? Because obviously it's deeply personal. It's very hard to put into words how you feel and expect the person opposite you, who, again, in your profession, a complete stranger to that person.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time, particularly if you're wanting to come to counselling, stroke therapy, whichever way you want to call that, you have to sort of feel that you've reached a point where you want to make some kind of change in your life, because obviously a lot of the time it's not always just about mental health. Sometimes it's about increasing self-awareness and just the sort of general sort of day-to-day things that might be affecting you. So it's that old sort of saying, in a way, you can't lead a horse to water, in a way. It's a little bit like that. But I also feel as well that particularly if you are, a family member has concerns around your mental health, then a lot of the time it can come through them. And it can be quite difficult for them to sort of approach that subject and to say to you, look, are you okay? Are you going through something that you're finding difficult at the moment? I think it takes a lot of courage for clients to come to that stage where they think, I need to get some help.
Would you find that, because typically, and I'm kind of stereotyping here, but females are kind of more on the sensitive side.
Yeah.
Would you say that it's also men, like what you would how you would encourage men to put forward as well?
And actually, it's a very interesting point you make. I think most people even now still have this sort of perceived sort of thing that counselling, or counsellors, should I say, or therapists are female. Part of the reason why I came into this was mainly because I felt that a lot of males didn't have a voice. It took a long time for me personally to sort of come to that conclusion that being a sensitive and empathic male is a good trait to have, but I needed an outlet somewhere to take that. And, counselling seemed to be the right journey for me through, people had suggested to me, including Mum, obviously Gemma, and having had my own mental health experiences as well. Very inspired by a counsellor that I had a long time ago. But I think particularly if you're talking in terms of men coming to therapy, there's this... We live in such a difficult world at the moment with the toxic masculinity. Sorry, let me put my teeth in.
That's all right.
It's nice to know it runs in the family.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I think just recently with the program on Netflix, Louis Theroux's documentary as well, that sort of thing has just highlighted how difficult it is for men, who particularly ones... Yeah, okay, and I include myself in that you have to feel like you conform to that stereotypical sort of roughy-tufty, pint-drinking, dart-throwing, rather be sort of sat at a table full of men talking about football type of thing, when actually there's quite a lot of men out there that actually that's not really who they are, and they have to put this mask on in order to feel like they are accepted.
Well, one thing that got me about that documentary was especially it was the sense of... I got the feeling that everyone just wanted to be a part of something. It was a sense of longing more than and I found a lot of them seemed to be fighting their own intuition.
I couldn't agree more.
Agree, just so that they could be a part of something.
Yes,
it's that problem of they're almost going against their own ingrained beliefs just so that they can be a part of something because they don't want to be alone again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and were you saying about that sort of whole thing about being alone again? It's, that sense of belonging and a sense of needing to be with something. And I think that's probably why, and I'm going off on maybe a slight tangent now, when we, that sort of highlights that sort of the whole football thing. It's something, you wear that, whether you're a Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester United supporter, you wear that badge with pride.
You wear that uniform, you're part of that family.
Yes.
You get that kind of familiarity.
Yes.
And I think, and again, that was the danger. That's why I feel like it was missed more than yes, it's great fun to poke fun at these people for saying silly things, but I did feel that Louis kind of missed the point of, it's not that we want to dismantle this, it's that we need to replace it with something better, something the core concept is not the problem. Wanting to belong to something is not the problem. Wanting to look after yourself is not the problem. Wanting, joining a gym, becoming healthy is not a bad thing. Because it's what has tied itself onto those things that is the problem. It's knowing how to separate and understand of, yes, you can go to the gym and work out and be healthy. You don't have to start taking steroids and talking about women like they're objects. Yeah. The two are not synonymous, and there seems to be way too much bleed over. Absolutely. But I agree with what you said as well, with the fact of it's a lot of self-awareness, which seems to be a big problem.
Yes.
So many people, again, want to be belonging to something that they will avoid what's staring them in the face. And like you said, having that self-awareness to say, you know what, no, I'm not happy just with this one element. I feel like I should talk to someone about it, and being able to separate them.
And I think, I'm sorry to talk over you there, but it just occurred to me.
It's okay.
And it's funny, actually. It's what's really interesting is this morning, obviously I keeping confidentiality. I had a client this morning, a male gentleman, and very broadly speaking, who is having issues around this sort of subject matter. And that whole sort of, there's it's having that sort of internal struggle, that internal conflict of having to keep that down, and sort of, because it feels so unsafe to reveal that true self within the environment that, particularly for males, they feel
Manly
like
man.
they have to be in.
In all honesty, just to sort of jump in quickly, but I think it's more manly, but then this is coming from a female, but I think it's more manly to own up and want to seek the help and things like that. But also I can equally see it from the other side, where it's like your mates are like, oh, why you need that? Kind of thing, because they don't understand. But I think also it's partly maybe upbringing as well, because Lee, I know in Lee's case, obviously, majority of people who brought you up until Dad came along was women.
Female. Yeah.
So, for the most part of your life, you were brought up slightly, this is going to sound awful, but slightly on the feminine side.
No, you're right.
So you have those female thoughts.
Traits. As well, yeah.
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
So,
I think also fundamentally, I mean, for me that sort of instilled who I became as a person, and it wasn't until a lot later on in life through different life experiences that I became comfortable with that. That those nurturing, feminine and nurturing experiences that are fostered when you are a lot younger. And for me personally to be lucky enough, I think, to have a lot of females in my life, some of which performed both roles, the male and female roles, but also the extended family, neighbours who became, in inverted commas, aunties and uncles.
Yeah.
You're getting your influences from all that broad spectrum of people, but sort of bringing it back to what we were just saying. This is why a lot of men, in particular, are so lost, because the only point of reference that a lot of them seem to have are these figureheads that perhaps maybe, and this does sound a little bit judgmental for a counsellor, so I sort of apologise. I'm supposed to be non-judgmental,
yeah.
but with my
no, at the end of the day, you're still human. I think this is the other problem. Again, this is the other problem.
Absolutely,
we all have thoughts like this where it's like, I'm being a little judgmental, but at least you're being judgmental.
yes,
and you can offer that advice with up front. It's when people do that without thinking.
Yeah.
Again, the lack of self-awareness.
Yes.
Thinking that this is my own independent thought, and it's really not.
No.
But as you were saying,
Yeah.
sorry to cut you off.
No, not at all. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's spot on. That's pretty much where I was sort of going with that, really. It does sadden me, to be honest with you, because I have had experience with a work colleague who you could quite easily turn around and say was you sort of like, that sort of male background, male sort of, nothing gets to me and sweary and everything else. Once he sort of knew that I undertaken a counselling course and started to sort of speak to me as a work colleague, we sort of spoke in a bit more depth. We sort of revealed to him a different side of him. Again, you have to be very careful as a counsellor to be mindful of the overlap between being counsellor and being friend or brother or partner. So you're not counselling friends and such in such a way, because you still have to be confidential, and you're having that information imparted onto you, and
it's a big responsibility.
It is a big responsibility to hold. It is. And when you're being told something that might not necessarily be in the appropriate setting, let's say in the counselling space, it was quite challenging for me to have to say, well, look, you're telling me things, but do you want to go for a drink somewhere, or should I pop round and we'll have a cup of tea or something? Or even to the point where I actually got to a point where I felt that it was better for me to sort of refer him on to someone. Had he thought of going to speak to somebody else? But my point being is that I actually saw a different side to him, and he revealed this different side to me and to himself. But in hindsight now, it scared him. It scared him to sort of be like that, and because he didn't know that side of him.
I think that's one of the biggest problems with therapy, is people facing up to not necessarily who they really are, but how they really feel. And it's that thing of unbridled emotions.
Absolutely, yeah.
Without that level of control and without that level of, understanding. It's a bit like, again, especially with grief. I've done, as a former police officer, obviously I've dealt with a lot of grief counsellors, because obviously I've had to deliver death messages, and watching people change over just the information of a person's no longer with us. And that is, again, it's one of those emotions come at you whether you like it or not. There is no preparing for it. And I think that's what scares a lot of people when it comes down to therapy, is you're going to open this door, something's going to come out, and you're going to have to deal with it. As Lee mentioned before, like setting boundaries. Like you said, like you want to help as a friend, and then at the same time you're trying not to wear your counsellor hat, because, like you said, you start veering into territory where it's like, this has now gone beyond what I feel either comfortable with or in some cases, I don't feel like I can look at this objectively as your counselor because I'm also your friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to do what's best for you, which might not necessarily be what's actually the right thing. I might mollycoddle you. I might, it's like if someone brings up a genuine concern, but you're like, yeah, but he's my friend. It's a bit like with extremism.
Yes.
It's like extremism is one of the biggest ones at the moment. My stepfather is working with, what's the company? It's a single word. It's the government-backed program. Prevent, that's the one. Now, I'm not 100% behind Prevent because, again, I've noticed there's certain things where I do feel like their boundaries are a little skewed. But again, I've spoken to my stepdad over this, and he said, he's got these prisoners who are like they're pushing to extremist boundaries, but he's finding ways to break through because he's a priest.
Okay.
He's actually ordained, so he's using his religion as a doorway in, as a kind of. He had one prisoner who loved architecture, so he took him around churches because obviously it's the perfect footway of. I'm not going to discuss anything else. Just look at the nice brickwork.
Yeah.
And it helped open him up because it was an avenue, but at the same time, it helped him address other issues within. But I do appreciate like it's not the easiest job in the world when you have to pump the brakes. It's like you feel like you're making progress, and then you have to draw that line. And I can't imagine how hard it must be because again, I remember telling people they've lost loved ones and not, trying to keep that professional level. Like it must be equally hard when it's counsellors when it's like we've made a breakthrough, but you've now stepped over into a new area where it's like I'm going to have to refer you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you've let them down because you're having to let them go.
Absolutely.
But it's to let them go to move on to
and allow them,
to keep getting better.
Yes, and it's allowing them to grow in their own process. It can be quite challenging as a counsellor to remember that it's not about you.
Yes.
And that you can't help everyone, and that there's. I guess you are very professional, but it's an extremely challenging, and I can think back to many times now, certainly with my counselling training, when I've had to take a step back emotionally because you can very easily become, like you say, that line can be very easily crossed, and then you find that potentially then you're projecting your feelings onto the client and vice versa. So you have to be very aware of all of that, which is, and this is why I actually this is quite a good lead into for sort of explaining to anybody that hasn't had therapy before. And I refer to it as therapy and counselling. When people refer to it as counselling is mainly short term, and therapy is seen as more long term. Just to sort of clear that up. Where was I going with?
I think you were on about boundary lines as well, like understanding that therapy is more about breaking like behavioral patterns and noticing that they're negative ones, whereas counselling is more about coming to terms with something that, again, as you said, a short-term problem like grievance will pass in time.
Yes.
Whereas with therapy, that's more required for a more long-term. Like myself, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So obviously therapy is where I'm going down that route as opposed to counselling, because that's going to be a lifetime issue. It's changed me fundamentally.
Yeah. And of course, within that, then there's several different types of therapy. I mean, for myself, I'm a humanistic integrative counsellor, and of course the other.
What does that mean? I suppose.
So humanistic integrative counsellor is, I have like a framework or like a grounding, let's say, in what they call person-centered. And you might hear person-centered within, say, like the nursing profession. So it's like everything that you're doing as the counsellor is fundamentally, it's for that person. It's it's person orientated. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of like, say, like my underpinnings. But then from that, there are different aspects to that you build on to make like almost like a bespoke sort of service, if you like, it almost becomes quite intuitive after a while.
It's almost like you're catering to the person's needs.
Yes, you are. Yeah, you are.
So,
You are. Yeah, there's
no broad brush. It's very much
No.
you take each patient as they come, and you adjust your approach accordingly, depending on how they react to certain stimuli and again their circumstances, their condition. Like everything's kind of fluid, so it's much more personal.
Yes, and the thing is with this is there's there's no one size fits all. It's just not like that, and I think it's very important for people to understand when they come to therapy that a good counsellor or therapist, if you like, will go at the client's pace. Will always go at the client's pace, particularly in the first couple of sessions, is holding that person where they are at that time, and fundamentally and getting a good grounding, a good understanding of where they are and building up that rapport. There's nothing worse than, and this is my own personal view, than someone someone coming into counselling and then a counsellor just saying, well, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah,
that has its place.
Yeah, it's like you need to just do it for yourself.
Yeah.
If I knew, I wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
That's kind of it's very much the, if I knew that, why the hell would I be asking you what's wrong with me?
I also think that it's important as well, as the client, that you make sure that you have a counsellor that you actually do get on with. Obviously, it might take a session or two. I've had experiences in the past, and because I've had various different forms of counselling for different reasons, and probably since from age 16 onwards, really, for, like I said, for different things. Like I had one of my last ones that I had, like I won't say the firm or anything like that, but they, first of all, they were always 10 minutes late, which really, really annoyed me. And I was like, well, so I was just like, well, why are we even bothering, kind of thing. I was always there waiting on time. And their excuse was always like, oh, the other appointment ran over, or, but it was every time. And I was like, well, why aren't you allowing more time for the other appointment, kind of thing.
And then that makes you feel as if, well, am I important then, or am I not important?
Yeah, exactly. And also, why the hell am I doing this then?
Yeah.
Did you end up clock watching as well? Did you that's something that would be in the back of my mind is, okay, if someone else gets 10 minutes, am I allowed an extra 10? And then your focus isn't on actually getting better. It's on about, like, you're focusing on the wrong thing then.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, it's already putting you on the wrong foot immediately out the gate for what you're actually there for.
Yeah, because of how I am personally, because they were always late, I was like trying to get it done quickly and just going, yeah, fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks. And I shut down. I completely shut down.
Which is the complete opposite way of dealing with therapy, because the whole point is about opening up. And if you're just going like one word answers going, yeah, I'm fine, you're giving nothing for the therapist to work on, because they're just going to go, well, they appear fine. So next.
Exactly.
And I think also there, it's a collaborative process. It's as a counsellor, when you have somebody that may present in the way that, say, Gemma has, well, then you work with what you have. You work with that and gently explore that at first until you build up that rapport, and then you might drop in a challenge and say, well, I wonder, last week when we spoke, you seemed a little bit withdrawn when we spoke about your father. Then the words start to sort of fall in, and it becomes more, it's that rapport growing, I suppose. And it's not just a hard and fast sort of talking therapy, because often is the case, and I've had this with other clients in the past, where a lot of clients will just be yes, no, I'm not sure, and this could go on for sort of weeks, or they wouldn't like to be left in silence. That's the other thing. Silence for a lot of people can be very, very awkward, and they feel like they have to fill that space. So you have to be quite tactile and very understanding of the subtle nuances of that, and particularly now we're in the sort of remote age of, okay, we're speaking, I appreciate this is an audio recording, but we are speaking face to face, so I can see your body language. But most of what I have done has been on the telephone. Grumpy, sad.
Wrong. I need a poo.
Angry, girl.
Constipated.
You need more fibre, love.
You need some shreddies in your diet. Yeah.
Oh God, that's all I need. Gemma sending me cereal in the post.
You shut up.
Yeah, but yeah, it's sending cereal in the post. Have I missed something?
Gemma sends me all sorts of shite in the post.
Well, what I did, I think we'll just break, very quickly.
Break
actually,
for a minute.
Yeah, we'll just have a light moment for a second.
Yeah.
And ironically, a light moment, because I sent James a ring light. Because it was mine, but I can't use it because I'm wearing glasses.
Yeah.
Because you just see the rings on the glasses, so it was a pain in the ass. So anyway, so I sent that to him, and he's got it on now. Yeah, and but I was really unwell.
Makes me all shiny.
So, yeah. So last week he said on the episode, or last episode, sorry, he said, "Oh, you sent me the plague in a box," and we never actually talked about it. And so because I was unwell, I sent this ring light to him, and then that's what he meant, that he actually got sick.
You sent the lurgy as well as the ring light.
I didn't mean to. Yeah, but I didn't send him a birthday card this year because I thought he doesn't want it.
So you've got an. So I was just about to say, so you've got an infected ring now, then?
Yep. All thanks to your sister.
oh dear.
And that's why. That's how you know it's a Talking Codswallop podcast.
Yeah.
we can take a serious topic like mental health and make it into a joke about sexual diseases and your siblings
across the internet.
But if I may get us back on track, then
I was just about to as well. So
we've had our levity. Let's get serious again. Serious faces. I think one of the things I wanted to ask you, Lee, is again, because obviously it's less about obviously as a patient, I've had my experiences, but do you ever feel I'm trying to word this the best way, is like, how do you cope with, I wouldn't say failure, but do you ever feel like you've let someone down within counselling, like they've either gone down a path that you've tried to prevent, or have they, or something's happened that could have been completely out of your control, and yet how do you separate that so that you don't then put way too much effort into the next patient? I think, how do you isolate that kind of
overcompensate
element of the last thing you want is you want to have one patient go one way, so you desperately try and make make it up on the next patient, and then that's a dangerous spiral to get involved with as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the single biggest thing that helps with this is supervision, and your peers as well. As part of my training and as part of a counsellor as well, all counsellors are required to undertake regular supervision. And basically what that is, it's just to make sure that you're working ethically and safely for yourself and for your client as well. For me, I'm a member of the BACP, the British Association of Counsellors and Psychotherapists. So there's lots of underpinnings within that. There's complaints procedures and so forth. But as I say, as far as my supervisor's concerned, I would say there have been a number of occasions when I have had certain things that have, particularly around grief, that have challenged me in my personal life, for both me and Jem around our dad, that have popped up from a client, and it's made me go, this has just sort of touched something that I thought I was okay with, but actually, on reflection afterwards, something that doesn't feel quite right, and I will take that to my supervisor, and we'll explore that. And sometimes it could well be that you may well need to go into therapy yourself to further explore that, so that you don't fall down that trap of, as I referred to earlier on, you end up potentially then projecting your feelings and sensitivities and emotions back onto the client, you see. So again, that's what I refer to about being safe and ethical as well. Personally, I've had a number of occasions when I've just had to just sort of say, right, I need to take a bit of a step back. I'll journal about it. I think my biggest sort of safety net, which is for me, is my spiritual beliefs, my spirituality. That helps me a lot. That runs parallel with what I do, and I get a great deal of comfort from that,
which is good.
Because I imagine it's a huge balancing act of, if you've been through something similar, are you in a position where you can advise through experience?
Yeah.
Or are you in a position where you are, possibly compromised because you yourself are not ready to cope? You haven't addressed your own issues. Therefore, am I fit to address this on behalf of someone else?
But equally, because obviously, okay, sometimes it can be hard for the counsellor, the therapist, whatever. But equally, does it help you in a way to relate with that person? So if they come to an experience where, I can't go into too much detail, but a loss of a father, let's go with that one, because we all know that. So I don't want to go into anything too personal or whatever. So you can kind of relate. I wonder if that actually helps to bond you with your client.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It does. It does help to build up that rapport and that deeper empathy as well. And I think that sort of becomes more noticeable the more you go through the process with the client. What I would say though is it does take a very, and this is not meaning to sound egotistical, it takes a very high degree of self-awareness, so that this always has to remain about the client, about the client, about the client. Yes, you can draw from your experiences, but you're not imparting your beliefs, your too much of your understandings towards the client. It's
about them.
It's because it's about them. I think that you do have to get to a point where, and it does, I think you sort of gauge it so far into the relationship. I mean, I've got one particular client who's been with me for about 2 years now, and we've built up such a relationship now that I don't necessarily have to sort of turn around and say, well, with my Lee head on, I this is sort of what I have experienced is blah 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 blah. But even though I'm in a position where I can say that, I still have to be professional and and caveat that by saying I still have to be professional. This is still confidential, and and that we're still in the counselling space. It's just that we're fortunate enough that the relationship we've got is as good as it is. It is about being boundaried as well. It is about being boundaried.
I think that in itself is part of the dangers of the job. You can't even. You've got to be careful about how you speak about it. Imagine how it's going to be.
Yes, that's where I was going with it.
With a client, this is what I mean. It's that there's going to be such a degree of detachment.
Yes,
just for your own sanity.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people go into therapy and counselling both incorrectly, thinking this is a cure.
Yeah.
They're expecting clean-cut answers of, you are this way because of X, therefore removing X means you will be better. And it's not.
No.
And that's where the personal elements come into it of, you've got to find your own way through it. I can help you by giving you examples from possibly my own life. But again, you've got to balance that of saying, up to this point.
Yeah.
At that point, you then have to go and find it yourself. It's about finding your own path through it as well, but having you there behind you to make sure you don't go back.
Yes.
I think that's one of the biggest hurdles for therapists and counsellors is, rather than leading the client, I think a counsellor has to remind you, I'm there to stop you from falling backwards.
That's right.
Not to drag you through it, otherwise you won't learn anything. I'm here to make sure you don't go back a step as a rather than being like, this is the way you're going to go.
From a client point of view as well, that you have to go into it knowing that you have to put the work in yourself as well, which is a big thing. Because a lot of time, there is one person who will give you, a lot of things like in life, like I'm guilty of it myself, that, it's like, you go on a diet, for example, so it's kind of related, but it's not. You go on a diet and you think, right, okay, I'm going to lose like 14 stone or 2 stone or whatever, and I'm not going to have to put any effort in. But in life, unfortunately, you have to put the effort in to actually get the reward and the achievements, isn't it?
So. I think the word, the counselling term to sort of sum some of that up is client autonomy. It's the right to self-govern. That everybody has the right to self-govern, and that the counsellor is there as a vehicle or as a mouthpiece to help you to sound those things out and to explore those things in a safe and confidential way, in a safe space, whether that be in a face-to-face environment or increasingly online. Of course, there's lots of considerations to understand within that. But I think, again, just sort of coming back to what you were saying, I think it's important for people to understand that counselling isn't a quick fix either.
Yeah.
It really isn't a quick fix. If I think, you've got to come in and understand that it's going to take time. It will take time.
And there'll be many wounds that are kind of picked at and and need healing, unfortunately, because you'll go into therapy thinking, oh, I just want to, why do I comfort eat or whatever, because that's one of my go-tos is you comfort eat or your feelings eat or whatever.
Yeah.
But, and then you're sort of getting into it and then you find out that, there's some really deep-rooted reason and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
God, why do I have to go all the way back to my childhood? But then it helps you to go back to it to
move forward,
deal with the person you are today.
It's like I mentioned before. I always got told, naughty. Someone didn't put their phone on silent.
It's Lee.
My phone is on silent.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hang on a
really
second.
Bad.
Naughty boy.
Yes.
Angry face, wag finger.
It's all right. It was only a ding. It's all right.
How do you put an iPad on?
Ding, ding, do, 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 do.
That's your off button, isn't
it?
No, it's my
bing,
button.
bing. Don't push his off button. He's not ready.
Don't push me off button because I might need that.
We don't know how to put the iPad on silent, so we might have to just deal with some dings.
I think
Gemma will allow it on this one occasion.
It's all right because I think that you might get it ding again once, and that'll be it. Because it's my daughter. So
something that stuck with one of my therapists was it's like opening a door. Something's going to go through. Something's going to come out. We have to deal with it no matter what it is.
Yeah.
I think that always stuck with me because it's like you said, Gemma. Sometimes you have to go back to the very, very base. You have to go back to the actual root cause. And it can mean pulling up some really, really horrible things that you might not even think are connected.
Yeah.
I think that's, again, one of the biggest problems is, as you said, Gemma, you go in, or a lot of clients go in with, I want this fixing. And it's like, okay, but we have to address what caused that in the first place, because it might be, unbeknownst to you, the first of many.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that sort of leads quite well to the question that we had from one of our listeners. I'll call them listeners, not salty tadpoles today. But no, it's like
we're grown-ups today.
Yeah, we're grown-ups today. Yeah, well, sort of. Where or how do you develop coping tools from? Once the wound has been opened, is there good development coping strategies that you have for obviously it's going to relate to a different situation, but like say if somebody was having like a mental breakdown, they had to take time off of work and things like that. I am actually using a situation that I am aware of, sort of thing. It also could be me, but I can't do that at the moment, so but it's but sort of trying to navigate that strong feeling that you're feeling of negativity and doom and whatnot, and how to kind of keep going and power through it, I think is what they're trying to, are there tools out there that you can use, or like on the internet? Are there things that you can look up or whatever
I
you
think
know of?
I think the first thing to say is see your GP. Is to see your GP, because it could well be that, you know, as much as I'm here as a counsellor, it might not be that counselling is the thing. It may well have necessarily gone slightly beyond that, or, you know, counselling as well as medication might be necessary, let's just say.
Yeah.
All right. As far as coping strategies are concerned, if we're talking about the other types of therapy, not necessarily the talking therapy that I offer, but I'm talking of CBT here. So that's cognitive behavioural therapy.
I did get on with that one
And
personally, but yeah.
Yeah, and that,
Me either. I really struggled.
Yeah, and I can't stand group counselling either. But anyway.
Oh, group is awful.
Yeah.
No, it's not for everyone. You know, you get given certain bits of like homework and different things to do. I'm not sort of really in a position to sort of speak too much about that. I have obviously part of a knowledge and awareness around that from when I did the training to be a humanistic counsellor, but obviously this is not my sort of field of expertise. If I speak from my field of expertise, then personally, I feel that whoever comes to you feeling those senses of, you know, what next? What do I do next? And hopelessness and anxiety. It's given them that safe space to, first of all, vocalize it.
Yeah.
To first of all, vocalize it, and whatever comes with that. Again, I often refer back to experience with clients that I've had. I've had clients where they've just come and said, "Look, I'm just don't know what to do. I really haven't got a clue what to do. I feel anxious every day. I've got this work situation going on," and they will. One of my other clients calls it word vomit.
Yeah,
and
I understand that.
and they'll word vomit, and they'll just go blah, 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 and you could have 50 minutes of word vomit. The next session could be the same. The next session could be the same, and then suddenly it's like a pause for breath, and then the emotions will come that are behind it, and they'll cry. Then, because that has released some space within them, there's space then to say, okay, let's start to break this down.
Let's put the plasters on.
Let's start to gently just see what's going on, and then start to challenge a little bit and to see where you can go with that. But first and foremost, it is about letting the client just get that off their chest, basically. You know,
let them set the pace.
Let them set the pace. Always, 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 always.
And let them open up when they're ready. Like, again, if they need the word vomit first to prepare themselves for the next part, so be it, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like I remember one time when I had counselling, and this was a good one, but compared to the last one that I referred to, she said that you wear many masks, which is very, very true for me, because it's like I go into, like, when I used to go into the office more, I used to go into the office and I used to be performing, Gemma, and I'd be like, "Hi everyone, how are you?" Because I'd be like trying to lift the mood of the office, because it was always quite negative. Well, it's not negative, but it's just like it's open plan. So it's like literally, because I'm sensitive, I would pick up on any negativity around. So I would put on the performance mask to kind of counteract that. But then it was exhausting me. I was feeling utterly drained, you know. And she said, "Well, why do you do that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know," you know, kind of thing.
I don't know if I knew.
Yeah, you tell me.
And this is. And I think this is something else. This is something very important to understand as well, is that then there is this disconnect between mind and body sensation. And there are other therapies and other modalities and theories around that as well. For the life of me, I can't think what it's called at the moment. But anyway, it's polyvagal theory.
Oh, goodness, what's that?
Which is...
I know what polyfiller is.
Polyfiller.
Yeah.
I know what polyfiller is.
I could follow that up with something, but
No, let's not.
let's not.
Yeah, you fill the cracks and ignore them. That's the bad version.
That's the
The
bad
polyfiller
version.
theory is the
Yeah,
bad one.
I don't think that fits with polyvagal
Skim coat
theory,
over the
but
top and forget
could
it.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Paste over it and paint over it. It's fine. It'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Often there is this sort of disconnect between how we sort of what our mind is telling us and what our body is telling us. There was a saying that came out: we hold our issues in our tissues.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and Gemma sort of almost alluded to that. That's something that she did. And that, like, it became such a strain to put that mask on. Yes, I'm okay. I'm all right. And then perhaps maybe smoking too much or eating too much, which there's a disconnect between what's going on here, feelings, and then it might actions, and it might manifest itself through illness as well. So this is the thing, and science is sort of coming to that, and that's another avenue of therapy, but that's, I mean, for me personally, I'm quite interested in that. So yeah,
definitely sounds interesting. And when you find out the answers, can you let me know, please?
Well, yeah.
Can I be your first client?
Well,
actually, on that subject as well, if any of the listeners listening to this at the moment, they think, oh, Lee sounds kind of cool, and he would be someone to talk to, he is available to do counselling, and it is available on Zoom, isn't it, that you use?
I tend to use I can use Zoom. I use
Teams, is it?
Teams, and I can use WhatsApp.
But the other thing that I was going to say very quickly as well is that although Lee is my brother, he is extremely confidential. So he's not going to then turn around to me and say, oh, one of your listeners was speaking to me the other day, or say James wanted to have some counselling or whatever, and he wouldn't say, oh, James was talking to me about such and such. He wouldn't do that. No. I wouldn't know anything about it. So
even if I had a Gemma venting session, Gemma did this and Gemma did that and Gemma did this and Gemma gave me the play.
It's fine. If you want to have that, you can have it to me personally. But if you don't feel comfortable, you can talk to my brother.
But it is something that is important, perhaps, just to pick up on there, because confidentiality is huge in counselling. It is massive, and it's something very important to stress that that's where sort of like talking therapy, counselling differs from sort of like talking just to a mate or what have you. And I come back to that situation I referred to earlier on with that chap at work. It got to a point where this is a bit too much. This isn't the right environment. I can't keep this confidential because it's not the right setting. At the end of the day, there's going to be times when no counsellor can keep something 100% confidential because the client may have alluded to something regarding, say, like drug trafficking or self-harm. Yes, anything like that. And of course, I know this sounds awful because I mean, a lot of it does go on as well, and we've heard in the news as like abuse of a minor as well. Anything like that. The only other time really that, and it does still remain confidential, but when I discuss with my supervisor, because I have to discuss with my supervisor.
Yeah.
So that's the only other avenue, port of call that it's not that the confidentiality is exposed, but that's the only other person that is spoken to within that. But again, at the end of the day, that's all about keeping that person safe.
Yeah.
You know?
But then also the other side of it as well, very quickly, is that if you did stumble across one of those situations, so like, I mean, the self-harm is kind of related to counselling, but obviously if it's on I'm going to literally end it, kind of thing, obviously need to act. If it's like cutting, then it might be more of a mental health. You can relate with that, or any of the like child abuse and stuff. I winced then when I said that, but what would you have to do? Would you contact the police at that point? Would you, or
you have to gauge it in the moment. If your client suddenly turns around and says, I really can't take this anymore, I've had enough, I'm going to end it right here, right now.
Yeah.
Then, to the best of your ability, if you're in a position to and you're able to get someone there, then yes.
Yeah.
Then yes, you'd have to call the police or what have you. But of course, you have to remember as well that you only have so many details as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you actually have the person's address
Yeah.
if they're doing it via Zoom or whatever?
Yes. If, say, example, I do some other work through a company called BetterHelp. Now BetterHelp have all of the client's information. If that kind of situation was to come up, then straight away I would be getting in touch with them. It's making sure that person still feels supported.
Yeah.
If it hadn't actually reached that sort of critical point, you do try to sort of work and collaborate with that client and sort of say, okay, I can hear from what you're telling me, you're almost reaching the point of no return. Yes, I am. I want to do this. So have you? It's then exploring. Have you made a plan?
Yeah.
Well, no, I haven't. Well,
there's still hope,
but there could potentially be intent. So it's working with the nuances of that and trying to sort of, okay, let's see what we can do with that to try and stop it from going, sadly, to the next level.
Yeah.
That in itself is a very, very challenging skill for any counsellor, particularly in training, to try and come to master. It's not until you're exposed to it, your training kicks in. I think it's a case of your training kicks in, and because of the type of person that you are, because that's why you've come to become a counsellor, that you then go to that next step and you go to that next level. So it doesn't then necessarily become as scary. And I speak from personal experience on the course when we had to do this. It was like, whoa, God, what do I do? Oh, panic. Who do I call? Who do I phone? And it's just about keeping calm, keeping grounded, and making sure that client knows there is someone on the other end of the phone or, video that's got you.
Yeah. I suppose in a way, James, you may have experienced that slightly with when you were a police officer.
I actually have. I actually remember distinctly having to talk down at least 3 people who'd rung 999 as a last resort.
Yeah.
And I remember one guy was sat on the beach wall, with the the tidal barrier.
Yeah.
So it was pitch black, no street lights. Literally, if he'd gone in, we never would have found the body. Like, it was, 1 a.m. So it would have been freezing cold, North Sea.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think I sat with him for about an hour. And at the time, I was 20.
Big responsibility for a youngster.
Yeah. So it's not a lot of life experience on your side.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I was doing my absolute damnedest, and thankfully managed to talk him down just by keep reminding him of his kids.
Yeah.
That was the big saving grace of that one, was just me basically constantly saying to him, "What am I going to tell you kids?"
Yeah.
I felt harsh at the time, but looking back on it, I'm like, I'd have done it again. I'd have said the exact same things again I told him that time, which was, it was almost like, to a degree, it was almost like shaming him. I basically shamed him out of suicide. It was basically, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go around to your house. I'm going to wake up your kids in the middle of the night, and I'm going to tell them Dad's gone. And they're not going to understand why. I'm not going to be able to give them that answer. And I felt horrible in the moment, but at the same time, I felt like I had to do something drastic, because we were at the drastic, like we were at that turning point.
Yeah.
It was either I'm all in at this point.
Yeah.
Although you feel like, it was the drastic or whatever, but it also was the reality kicking in for him. He maybe needed that reality kick to actually say, what are your kids going to do? What are you, what's your wife or your ex-partner going to have to deal with, the children, or whatever, it is sad that somebody gets to that point, but obviously, hopefully, you can seek help before that does actually happen, so you can at least try. You've got to keep, that's what I think, is that you've got to keep trying. There's days when you really don't want to, And I can echo this myself, that there's really days that, I mean, I've never been suicidal or anything like that, but sometimes I do sit there and I think, why me? Why have I got all of these illnesses? Would I be better off not being here? I'm never going to act on that. And I know I'm never going to act on that. And I wouldn't be saying it in front of my brother if that was if that wasn't the case, sort of thing. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, so those dark thoughts do come into everybody's head, but it's learning how to deal with them. And everybody's got their own ways of dealing with things. Like, I go very quiet and I'd rather be on my own and process it, and then I will, maybe speak to somebody. There's other people that speak constantly about these things, but then there's also family members that know that I'm thinking of our mum. She notices and picks up because she's sensitive as well. So she will notice and pick up on the fact that there's something not quite right about you.
Yeah.
But then the way that I am, sometimes that can be irritating. And I mean that in the nicest way, Mum. I love you, because I'm sure she'll listen to this episode. But love you. But you can say it too, James, if you like. But but because of the way I am, and
love you, Gemma's mum.
The way that I like to process things, it's hard to navigate the two different conflicting ways of how my mum and myself are. Even though we're very similar in the sense that we are similar as well. But
and again, just something that popped into my mind when you said that, Gemma, and I think from with my counsellor head on, it's when you have clients that present, everybody's going to present in different ways.
Yeah,
it's the uniqueness, and you have to embrace that uniqueness, and to try and find out what's going on underneath the iceberg, if you like, because often there's so many things that are sort of said above. It's what's going on below.
Yeah.
And
it's like the swan, isn't it?
Yeah.
The swan looks elegant at the beginning, and
absolutely
then
right,
paddling like crazy underneath.
Yeah. And I think
patients are like onions; they have layers.
That's it.
Yeah,
many ast
How many more puns can we get in?
And only half of them look like Shrek.
What are you saying about my brother?
Hey, what? Hey? Oh, sorry, I ripped your earphone out. Sorry.
Silence, donkey.
But
I love making James laugh.
When you were saying about that, I think it just reminded me of, and I hope your listeners don't mind. I just sort of shared a little bit of my personal experience.
Well, if they're still here, they're listening. So that's fine.
And I think
they might have turned off by now.
We've had enough.
They might have turned off at the ring light conversation.
But
sorry,
no, it's all right. No, but it just reminded me of some of the things that sort of I've gone through to get me to this point of what I'm doing now. I would never in a million years have thought that I'd ever be sat at the other end of a telephone or Zoom or even with a face-to-face helping someone go through similar situations of what I'd been through. And I think that anybody that is thinking that, do you know what, counselling sounds like that's a profession that I would like to go into, have a long, hard, serious think to yourself exactly what you do. Loads of research, talk to people, go in.
It's a 5-year course as well, isn't it?
Yeah, to do the Humanistic Integrative course. It's the level 4 diploma is a 5-year course, but it opens you up. It really does. It's like therapy. It is therapy itself, and you do have to do a certain amount of your own personal therapy anyway. We were told when we first started, I remember going to the taster session, and I'm still friends with a gentleman there who came along, who's, funnily enough, he's a thatcher by trade. We've sort of struck up a rapport. We've always sort of stuck together, and you're told by the tutors that be ready for anything, because when you're exploring these different things about yourself, It brings different things up. They've known of people having to have challenging conversations, let's say, with their partners, which have been good, they've been productive. Others maybe not so. That's sort of like maybe not a negative side, but a side to be aware of. But overwhelmingly, I would say that from, and I use the word egotistical again, from a non-egotistical sort of point of view, the feeling that you get when you know that you have helped someone at the end of a 50-minute session just to get through the rest of that day, you can't put it into words.
Yeah.
You really can't put it into words. It just feels right. It feels genuine. It feels authentic. It doesn't actually feel like it's come from a place of ego. If it's come from a place of ego that you're doing it to build yourself up, get out.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing it. It's as simple as that.
I can't think of a better way to end this episode, to be honest.
No.
It's quite a positive. And also the battery on the laptop is going down a little bit as well, so we're going to have to do it very soon.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. See you next time. Bye.
Yeah. But no, I can't think of a better way to end this episode with that, really, to be honest. Other than, do you want to give us your website and how people can contact you if they want to, or if they don't and they just get benefit from this? That's even better.
If I could just do just two quick things.
Go on then.
All right. Yeah. If anybody does feel like they want help, first port of call, GP. If you're in immediate need of any help, Samaritans, any time, 116 123. Mind are very good as well. 0300 102 1234. Calm, 0800 585 858. And NHS 24, which is 111.
Of course, with regards to, because we have got international listeners, this is applicable for UK
listeners.
And obviously, please search the places for yourself. But yeah, we do love you as well. So
or alternatively, if you do reach the point where you think actually talking therapy is for me, you can always come to my website and you can visit Soul Counselling.
Do you want to spell that?
And that's Soul, SOUL, LEEYOU, COUNSELLING.co.uk. Or alternatively, you can email me at info@soullyoucounselling.co.uk.
Brilliant. What I'll do is I'll take one of your cards and I'll put all of the information that you've just said into the description. So if anybody wants to, they can just click the link and stuff like that. So, but thank you ever so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that. Thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet and talk to James as well.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think we've been talking enough Codswallop this week. I have been Gemma.
I've been James.
And I have been Lee, Gemma's brother.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Yay.
Bye. Thank you very much. Bye.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.